I can't move my computer screen. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'm, for some reason, cannot get this on my other. I've got two screens going and they're like, otherwise I'm going to be like looking off in this direction. How are you?
Okay. How are you?
Excellent.
Hey,
Hello, Beth. She's got her video going.
I am back.
Excellent. And Michelle, nice of you to join us.
Hi.
Hello.
Michelle.
Hey, how are you guys?
Great.
It's summer we have over here.
Yeah. A little warm?
It's like 80 some, yeah, crazy.
You got it easy. We're going to be pumping up to 100 today.
Wow.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at 88. Annika, how's Toronto?
Nice, sunny.
You're back in Germany.
I'm sorry?
You're back?
I am back, yes. Germany was full on fall, like long sleeves and leather jackets and whatnot, but I came back against my expectations and have a little bit more summer.
Good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's great. Oh, so, Jeff, do you have somebody who's scribing?
Not yet. Should we give people another minute or so? Anybody want to volunteer to scribe? Since I'm the, I guess I'm the co-host facilitator today, it'll be hard for me to scribe. So if anybody would like to step forward and volunteer for that, that would be awesome. And I'm going to, in the chat box of Zoom, put in the Google document for the agenda and meeting notes, which I'll probably do a couple times as people join so they can see it. So I'm thinking of switching up the agenda a little bit from what I put in there yesterday. Given that I don't think, Michelle, I don't think I've met you personally. So given that, and I'm not sure you've been on a storytelling call before, have you?
I haven't yet.
Okay, so as a first timer, so if we had everybody who had been on calls before, I was just going to skip the intros. But since we have a new person, I will incorporate something into that. So I think Cecilia, go ahead.
Usually a good practice only because there are people watching the videos.
Oh, you're okay. What I was thinking of doing is in the agenda, on the last call, I think it was Jess may have had the idea of 2-minute updates from attendees regarding, as far as storytelling goes, what has worked well for you, lessons learned, practices, tips, and tricks. So I'm thinking as we go around and do intros, and you basically name where you're from, what you do, maybe just do a 1-minute snippet of a favorite storytelling tip or trick or something that's worked. Does that sound like a reasonable way to approach it?
Yeah.
Annika nods, Tyler nods, Cecilia nods. Okay.
Tyler, are you going to be the scribe?
Sure.
Tyler, can you see the, you came in a little late. I'm not sure if you can see the docs, the storytelling agenda doc there.
I have the storytelling meetup agenda plus note stock already open on my computer.
Awesome, awesome.
So, yeah. I think.
And Katie
It was meant to be that Tyler's the scribe.
Awesome.
And thank you for graciously accepting being voluntold.
And if anybody wants to help out, the more scribes we can have, the better. It's great if we can have a tag team going along here.
Yeah, it really helps me when I'm uploading the video because it takes a while for the cloud recording to come on, and then if I lose my post-it note that tells me who was on the call, then I'm able to do that. So so thank you. One-line TLDR is always good.
Sure, Jeff. Can you give me editing on that though?
Well, actually, I don't actually own that. That's actually Christine. I thought.
Yeah, so it should be commentable.
Yeah, but it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Hang on.
So, but they should be able to take note. Anybody should be able to take notes in there.
Yeah, it should be.
It puts it all off to the side as added until somebody.
Oh well, it adds.
Okay, so
I'll just start a document. It's fine. Keep going.
I love these names, like Anonymous Shrew. What was the other one? Anonymous.
Oh.
Oh,
Well, I think what it does is it'll let you put the notes in there, but it's basically says that so-and-so added it. So somebody has to go through, the owner of the document has to go through and
here. And
accept
actually, all of you as facilitators should have ability to do that. But let me go in on the back end, and Tyler, I'll send you a link that will give you the opportunity to be able to do that. So bear with me 1 second. I think, as everyone knows, everything's a draft. So, so this has been an ongoing thing of trying to get this going. So bear with us.
Oh, this is really annoying.
No, hang on.
No, not that, me, my view.
Oh, you are annoying? What?
Yes. Because the minute I start typing, everybody disappears.
On that annoying note, so why don't we, it's 5 or 6 after, so why don't we go ahead and get started. So as I mentioned before, a couple of you came on. Since we have some new people who haven't been on the call before, and it's good practice anyway to go ahead and do really quick introductions. So let's see, so we want I'm putting into the chat box here, name, city, and your role. And so name, city, role, and I want to incorporate what I think Jess, welcome to the show. I think you had the idea last month to kind of get a quick go round of people's tip of the month, if you will, storytelling tip of the month, what's worked for you. So I think any volunteers who wants to go first? If not, I will call on you. Annika, you are first. Please introduce yourself, where you're from, what you do, and your favorite storytelling tip or best practice.
Sure. Annika Horn, currently in Toronto, Canada for another 2 weeks, then moving to North Carolina. I am the founder of Social Ventures, which is a global community of social impact professionals who believe in the power of entrepreneurship for social change. So ecosystem building, but around the topic of social entrepreneurship. And it just so happens that I've been running a social media campaign around these ecosystem builders for the last 7 weeks. And what I found works really well is pictures. So people respond on social media to seeing people in action, to seeing faces. And if I can come up with a clever quote, I see a lot more engagement than having just a quote or just something really generic.
Good tip. Thank you. And so if you could ping pong or popcorn, sorry, to the next person.
Sure. I'll hand it over to Beth.
Hi. I'm in Erie, Beth Zimmer, Erie, Pennsylvania. Innovation Collaborative is the 501c organization that I co-founded, and we are attempting to be the backbone support system organization for the ecosystem. And one tip that I have for storytelling, totally agree with Annika on the pictures and or videos. They get a lot more attention, but also from, not to get on my soapbox again, but from a awareness perspective, consistency in messaging. And if you're trying to influence adoption of something, it's saying the same thing over and over again. I think the statistic is people need to hear something like 12 times at least before it actually sinks in. So consistency of message is key. And I will popcorn over to Michelle.
Hi, I'm Michelle Benham. I live in Durham, North Carolina. And yeah, are you moving to Durham, Annika? Yes. Oh, you should. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for Forward Cities. I've been in this role now for just a couple of months. So I'm very excited to join these calls in this community. This is more tactical, but one storytelling tip that we're kind of experimenting with now that I think is really exciting. We'll have a webinar tomorrow on the role of anchor institutions in inclusive small business ecosystems. And one of the tools that we're experimenting with is called Mentimeter. I don't know if any of you have ever used that before, but it's a real-time data collection tool. And so you can solicit questions from the audience or real-time feedback about what's resonating with people. And it can display in a variety of ways, whether it's like a word cloud or a poll result or something like that. So you guys should all tune in tomorrow at 2:00 Eastern for our webinar. Our registration is still open and you can see it in action.
Will that be recorded, Michelle?
Yes.
And what was the name of the app you're using?
It's called Mentimeter, M-E-N-T-I. We used it at our conference in Pittsburgh in June, and it was a really neat way to engage a crowd in a room around topics throughout the course of a presentation.
Okay, so pick somebody else to go next.
Oh, okay. Tyler.
And unmute yourself, Tyler.
Hi, I'm Tyler. I'm in Daytona. I like to write things down.
There you go.
My tip, be honest and authentic with your questions. You know, and I think I've heard a lot of questions being stated lately that are leading, coming out of some of the writers, etc., in this group, not this group, but you know, in this realm right now. And I would just encourage people to make sure that everyone has their own story and it is what it is, you know. So storytelling is a powerful tool, and if it's used in the wrong way, I don't think anybody will see positive results. So my tip is be honest and authentic in your questions. So, and with that, I will go to Katie. Hi, Katie.
Hi there. I'm Katie Gales. I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship Initiatives at Wake Tech. I'm sitting in Great Cary, North Carolina. Wake Tech covers Wake County because there are 58 community colleges in North Carolina. We all have our territories. So over in Durham, where you are, Michelle and Annika, it's Durham Tech. But if I get special permission, I can come over there. This is the first time I've joined this call, so I feel like I don't know what's going on, so I'm just going to mostly listen and see if I can get caught up. Mama said that the way to seem most intelligent sometimes is to just shut up, so that's what I'm going to do.
Okay, so pick, I think it's either Cecilia or myself or Jess are the only ones that haven't gone yet. So popcorning is just picking the next person to go.
Okay, I'll do, everybody knows Cecilia, I'll do Jeff.
All right, so my name is Jeff Bennett, and as I said at the beginning, I'm your moderator, facilitator, pilot for today's call. I am in Sacramento, California, and I run a small nonprofit here to help startups grow and succeed and connect. My top storytelling tip, I really get a lot out of interviewing founders and ecosystem builders one-on-one via in-person or Zoom calls and recording them, and then being able to use those recordings to transcribe that content and repurpose it in multiple factors down the road. So that's my tip. And I will ping pong or popcorn to Jess, since I think this idea, this thing we're doing is her idea. So I want to hear from Jess.
Hi everyone, Jess Edwards. Sorry if there's a little background noise. I'm driving right now and it's downpouring. But a quick tip I'd like to share is a lot of my projects have had really tight budgets for marketing and PR and storytelling. So I would just say to keep in mind, not everything has to be a monetary trade. I would say 1/3 of my PR has been purely just marketing trade. So this past month, we bartered with a really great blue tech newsletter editorial to do a piece on Alaska Ocean Cluster in exchange for they're our monthly sponsor for our Ocean Tuesday program. So I would just say, yeah, even if you don't have a budget, as long as you know what your strengths are and what you can bring to the table, it's pretty easy to barter with other folks that can bring a different kind of value for your storytelling. Thank you. Cecilia?
Great. Thanks a lot, Jess. Be careful driving. So I'm Cecilia Wessinger, and I'm your ESHIP community activator in support of all of your work. So I'm the one that helps to build the scaffolding around which you build the ecosystem and make it more robust. So in storytelling, I found that as I read articles as well, I think bullet points and concise, short takeaways are really helpful. So I have a tendency to tell really long stories, and so what I've tried to do is put them off into different sections so you don't have to read the whole thing, but it would lead you to give you kind of almost like a TLDR, or the what Christine calls the Netflix highlight of what that part is about. So so it helps people get the message without having to read everything, and then the bullet points or takeaways just to bring that information home. So that's what I'm working on. I'm not always successful, but I'm working towards that. So that's it. Back to you, Jeff.
Okay, so I think for a couple of you may have joined the call a little bit later, so I in the chat box I plopped in the link to the document where we're looking at the agenda for this. So if you're not familiar with how these calls work, there's kind of a standard running agenda format, if you will. 5 minutes of introduction, which we're way over already, some updates, which we'll get into next, and then kind of the main meat of the content, which you can see bulleted down there in the agenda, which we hopefully will have time to get through all of that. If not, some of it will be delayed. Cecilia, I don't know if are there any general Kaufman updates that we need to talk about before we jump into the project team updates?
Not so much. I think since the last call, we've uploaded the project canvases that were part of the hackathon that took part in this last ESHIP Summit. There are copies of the and keep in mind that the hackathon project canvases were simply an exercise during that time for people to work on, and there was no obligation or commitment or expectation that they would evolve past that. If you are wanting to create a project team, then we invite you to do just that, to get some people together and work on a project, such as what Jeff, Tyler, and Avery did in creating EB Hub. So the Ecosystem Builder Hub repository. Annika's doing her own project. So you're not expected to, obligated to, made to commit to anything besides what you'd like to follow your energy on. And of the 30 initiatives that have been prioritized, they're simply a good place to start, but not necessarily the only things around the ESHIP goals. So there are canvases without contact information that are available in an album on the Facebook page, as well as the community dashboard that we use. And if you were at the summit and part of that hackathon and put your name up on a board that says, I want to lead, count me in, or keep me in the loop, then you will have received an email with people's email addresses that also said that they wanted to do that. Feel free to reach out. The best place to probably engage with people like you who may be geeking out on the same ideas is probably the dashboard. So I will include a link to the community dashboard so you can all take a look at it and you know, decide to commit a project team, and there's a way to download the canvas and start on all of that. So that's a long answer to your short question of whether or not there is. I don't believe that there's any other updates that come to mind.
Okay, so that's a good segue, because the first item in my project team updates agenda was the dashboard. So you've already put a link in there. It's linked on the project team updates. There's a link to that, and there was really no report on that. One thing I did want to spend some time on, and we've got Beth and Annika on the call. I can't remember who all was on the call. Out of the last month's call in August, we had kind of a sub-team forum around goal 6.2, which is the, the word's escaping me, PR campaign basically, and storytelling coming together and working, and we had a call on that. The notes to that call are linked there, 6.2/storytelling team. Beth, Annika, do you guys want to say a few words about what that project is, where things might be at this point?
Sure. We talked about, so the basic premise is how do we raise awareness of the field of ecosystem building and the work of ecosystem builders, especially outside of our little cloud or bubble of ecosystem builders. So what tools can we leverage to connect with people that aren't currently part of this conversation? Something I landed on for myself was, since we don't have millions of dollars at our disposal right now and certainly can't lift such a big project, I've started thinking about how we can sort of use it from the ground up and equip ecosystem builders to tell better stories, to get in touch with their local media, and just sort of building up a stock of really awesome stories, case studies, so that we actually have a great message that we can bring out. And I am not taking any action on that until next year because we have to move and I need to get settled in. But a very exciting project, and I want to hand it over to Beth to see if Beth wants to add anything to what I just said.
So thanks, Annika and Jeff. First, I'm just over the moon that we have a project team and super happy about that. We have the notes here, so if anyone's interested in catching up, I'm not sure, Jeff, do we have a link to these notes on the Slack channel?
Probably not, but I can put them in somewhere in the story. I'll put them in the storytelling Slack channel right now.
Cool, thank you. So we have another call scheduled, but I believe that both Jeff and Annika are not available. And so I probably am gonna need to try to reschedule that. So stay tuned.
Okay.
Tyler, do you have anything to add, or Jeff?
Tyler, I can't remember. Were you able to make that? No, I didn't think so. So I think, the initial 6.2 idea was a PR campaign. And I think what we all decided was we don't have the funds to launch this global, drink milk campaign like we is referenced. But we can find and highlight communities that have had success in educating and gaining community support and tell their stories. So we shared some questions to interview with Beth, and I think the next step was to, Beth, I think you were going to check with some context about speaking with media partners in regions that have had success and ask for connections to other media across the country. And I'm not saying we have to report on this now, but that would be kind of a next step proceeding on that project. Is that about right, you think?
Yeah, and also it's kind of the ask to everybody is if you happen to trip upon, none of us have a lot of extra time, but if you trip upon someone that has experience in doing some kind of a public relations kind of activity to help move the ecosystem building function forward in their community, we'd love to talk to them because we need to shine a light on those folks. We want to run some pilots, but we think some communities already exist that have had some success in that space. So the more we can tell people, if you're running across or if you've experienced it, please let us know. That'll be awesome.
Cool.
I'm still hopeful that those billions of dollars will show up too.
Okay. So moving on, the next thing was, another thing came up last month was collect a list of ecosystem builder influencers on Twitter and Medium. I started that in a Google spreadsheet, which is linked there, so people can feel free to add to that if you know of any others. And also it had a list of hashtags that are commonly used on Twitter. There's only like 3, I think. That's basically, I plopped that together in like 10 minutes and haven't touched it since. I think, Tyler, you had an idea last call about developing a list of ecosystem builders to interview, which I think will dovetail nicely with an idea that Jess had, which I think we'll get into a little later. So I'm thinking of maybe deferring that unless anybody disagrees. Okay. And then the last thing on the project teams, Annika and I had an email exchange about an idea. So Annika, why don't you explain your idea a little bit, and then I'll say where it's at as from my end a little bit.
Okay, so I got really excited about the following. I was thinking, I don't know if you all saw, but Jeff has been doing some really cool work introducing the whole ESHIP community and the movement on Medium and starting to write more about it. And for some reason, I started thinking about 2020 and thought, what if we put 2020 completely in the, just put the ESHIP goals and the movement and the people, the movers and shakers in the spotlight for 2020, including the storytelling subgroup that we are. We have 8 goals that we're working on. We have 12 months in 2020. And so we could split it up in a way where we do goal 1 in January, goal 2 in February, so on and so forth. In between, we do a short recap, maybe in June, goal 1 to 4. In December, we do a full recap of the highlights. In May, we do a full-on coverage of the ESHIP summit itself, and use whatever platform we all agree on, and do a full-blown campaign that includes interviews with champions from specific topics, really giving some context around what is this initiative, what is this goal, why does it matter, who's working on it, who are the awesome communities that are already doing it right. We could do video, we could do podcasts and audio, we could do write-ups, we can do social media. I mean, there is a ton of stuff that we could do. We could even do a print magazine. How cool is that? So I get really excited about this kind of stuff. So I emailed Jeff. I'm like, I got an idea. We got to do this. No idea how we can drum up some funds to do it, because it's obviously a ton of work. But I think to Jeff's earlier point, with every conversation, if we set it up right, we can really get a lot out of it, and start celebrating ESHIP champions, which I just get really tickled about. So that's my idea.
Okay. So in when she emailed that to me, I think over the weekend, and I've actually previously had an idea to do something a little bit smaller scale. I do some writing for Co-Starter's Medium publication, and also for EB Hub. And so I had an idea to do between now and November a brief kind of synopsis of where all the energy is for each of the 7 goals. So that's one of the reasons I hoped to have some representatives from Goal 1 on here today, was to kind of get an idea of, okay, where's the energy? What are the projects that are moving forward, and who's involved, and kind of showcase them. So I'm planning to still do that for each of the 7 goals, and then do a summary article for Co-Starters. But what Annika's got is much more in depth. And so I actually brought it up to Co-Starters the other day, and they like the idea. So I think we'll be pushing it. So I think if anybody here is interested in participating in that, raise your hand. Tyler's pointing at himself. And so hold on, Tyler and Michelle.
So let me share that in writing some of the newsletters that are about to come out on the Kaufman page, so going out to a wider community of people. I don't remember offhand how many, it's probably about 12 to 1,500 people that get the ESHIP part of the Kaufman newsletters, which I would imagine most of you are on. So one of the things that I was going to write about are the storytelling efforts, because infused in all the goals are storytelling. Andy's gonna shed a little spotlight on Yuval's podcast as a something that he's listening to, and I was going to cover intersections, which is Co-Starters, SCN, EB Hub, and Social Ventures, which is Annika's. So just to put links in there. So just so you know that that's the content that I'm getting ready to write about, just a brief little paragraph or two in saying, so storytelling is part of this initiative. It's not an 8th goal, but it is interwoven into all the goals. Here are some examples of what's launched in the past couple of months, because really the question that we're always trying to answer is, how do we know that we're solving for these goals? And we're having 4 or 5 entities having launched in the last 3 months is huge, right? So so we're getting some traction. So that I can do. And then what I would like to do is, Annika, if you have kind of a timeline or an outline template that you could share, then what I would do is share it with the people on the ESHIP team, as well as like the public affairs group, so that they kind of know what's coming down the pike, and then maybe we can align efforts that way. So
Absolutely.
okay,
I would also, I know there's been some input, but I would want to talk to 1 or 2 people at Kaufman too, and just sort of set the context, and probably based on what Jeff has done. So if I go ahead with this, then I'll start working on this probably second half of October, so that I can build up some stuff and we're ready to roll in the new year. So yes.
Great. Okay.
And for that, knowing if Tyler's and if Jeff is in and whoever else wants to support will be really important, because I can't do all this by myself. And there's still that question of if I can't figure out how to pitch this properly, I can't afford to do all this work. So I'm still working on it, but if it happens, and yes, Cecilia, I will send you a timeline ahead of time and sort of.
That would be great. And I don't know, I think Jeff has seen it. I don't know who else has seen it. There is a Medium blog that that Christine and I worked on, and so it sits outside of the realm of Kaufman just a little bit, because it's got to be our voice. So this ESHIP Summit snapshot that we created, I think I'll put a link into the chat, and basically it's us recapping all the stuff that happened, and trying to explain it as concisely as we can without leaving out any of the main bits. So the thing that we needed to do was to make sure that it was sharing from me and Christine, and not the Kaufman Foundation. So that's why this blog post is named for, the authors are the community activation team, as opposed to consultants for the Kaufman Foundation kind of thing. So yeah. So anything along those lines that we can help in sharing content, like the visuals that we have and whatnot, we're happy to help.
Terrific. Thank you.
Okay. So again, if anybody else here is interested, I've so far in the parking lot section of the notes, which is over that right column, I noted myself and Annika, Michelle, and Tyler as being interested in this particular project. If there's anybody else, raise your hand or put your
Jess raised her hand.
Who did?
Jess.
Jess did. Okay. Let me go add Jess then. Cool. Oops, put her in the wrong spot.
I'm lowering your hand now.
Okay. So on to the general meat of the activity, which we've already done the 2-minute updates in our introduction. So I want to move on to the initial intent of this was to have a conversation with one of the Goal 1 champions, which would be Malika or Eric or Tiffany or Hassan. And unfortunately, none of them were able to make it today. I wanted to just kind of see, the main question was, how can the ESHIP Storytelling group help Goal 1 and its initiatives. So given that they're not here, I want to do two things. One is maybe we can just, Cecilia, since you've probably been on those calls, or anybody else who's been on Goal 1 calls, if you've heard anything about how, or have any ideas about how storytelling can help Goal 1's initiatives, any ideas you want to bring out?
I think there's some great examples, and Michelle would probably be able to speak to that as a member of Forward Cities and working towards that inclusive lens. So that perspective, I think it's like a good case study, right? As you walk into the communities and look at what's out there. So I'm curious to get your thoughts, because what you do is basically the story of how to infuse inclusion into an ecosystem intentionally, and bake it into the culture. There was an article, there was something that Victor tweeted, actually, and let me see, I had this link up because I need to look at it a little bit more, and it's something around why do rates of entrepreneurship vary, and the findings are it's really about the societal culture. And so the culture of an ecosystem really determines the vibrancy of that area, and the culture needing to be inclusive in order to engage a wider range. So maybe it's just the idea that we're validating all the things that we have a notion about. So what do you think, Michelle?
Sorry, I was unmuting myself. To be honest, I'm still immersing myself in the meaning of this work. I do want to share, in case you haven't all seen it, which I'm sure some of you have, Faye Horwit wrote a LinkedIn post last week, and I know it's been shared on a few of the platforms we've mentioned already, but I'll just copy and paste it into the chat in a few minutes, just talking about that and our approach. And as we're looking forward to developing strategies about how to infuse inclusion in this space, I'm happy to, keep everyone posted. But yeah, I think Faye's article is a really good place to start.
So I think a really simple action item that everybody on this call could take today is to, if you have a chance, can you put that link in the chat box there? Yep. So if we could all, if not read it today, go to it, and whatever social media platform you're on and most influential on, share that. I think is an easy way for us to kind of share that. I think it was a great article. For me, it was the best article on inclusion and diversity, and moving beyond that to something more that I've ever read. So I really liked that. So really appreciate what you did there. So I think it really needs to be shared. So we can do that. That's one thing we can do as a storytelling team to help.
So Jeff, can I make a suggestion? Because sure. I know you and I have talked about this. Mm-hmm. Perhaps there's a way that in the storytelling Slack channel, when you come across something, we're trying to build a culture of advocating for each other. I try to get away from on the Facebook page, like maybe not self-promotion, but if you get somebody else to talk about your thing, then it infuses that into the culture that we're all advocating for each other's work. That maybe putting links like that into the storytelling Slack channel, and then we can all widely distribute, as opposed to, trying to find the nugget and then having to find people to help support that. So if that's something that this group is passionate about, then yeah, just post your link, or if you write something or come across something, then if you throw it in the Slack channel, then people can start sharing it.
Yeah, good. Another quick actionable thing we can do. Any other thoughts on that? If there's no more thoughts on that, Jess had a great idea that I thought if there was nobody from Goal 1 here to kind of expound on things we can do as a storytelling group to help them out with their initiatives. Jess put together a little document with a couple of ideas, one around Goal 1, one around Goal 2. Jess, are you at a computer by chance where you can read that?
No, I'm sorry. I'm still driving. Do you mind?
I can do it. I kind of thought that might happen. So I will kind of read. There's a link to that in the agenda there. So anybody, and actually I will plop it into the chat box as well.
So can I just say real quick, Jeff is saying it was great ideas, but I want to thank Jeff. Those ideas came from seeing Jeff's 2 questions or things to address from last meeting. So those came from Jeff, really, but that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so the first one around Goal 1 was how can the storytelling initiative help advance Goal 1, the inclusive field? And her idea was a storytelling series idea on unsung ecosystem builders. And this is where I think it kind of dovetails with something Tyler said in last month's call, was like the Unsung Heroes campaign to highlight professionals who serve but don't always get thanked. This could be a short series to nominate outstanding ecosystem builders and highlight their work. Who inspires other ecosystem builders. And the desired result would be to educate the broader public on the field of ecosystem building, and would highlight a more diverse pool of ecosystem builders, since a lot of ecosystem builders would never nominate themselves or possibly don't think of themselves as an ecosystem builder. So I think it's a great idea. So I think it's a potential idea for another project team to go out and do. So I thought I would open it up for discussion, especially with if Jess has more ideas on that, and Tyler had something similar last call. So if you guys have any thoughts on that, or anybody, discuss.
So I'm wondering if it wouldn't help to get the stories out if we had a template for each story, make it easier for people to write. That here's the formula for a story about an unsung ecosystem builder, and inside that story someplace, maybe at the bottom, is a statement of what makes this person an ecosystem builder. I think some people wouldn't define themselves as that because people still don't know what it is. We're still creating that understanding in the marketplace. So, you know, if there's I know with me, if I've got a formula I can follow, then it helps me to get it out. And you know, we probably need the stories to be easily digestible, meaning they can't be War and Peace. They can't tell the person's whole life story. They probably need to be roughly 650 words, the size of a blog post that you can digest pretty quickly. So my suggestion is that we establish a template that people can follow to tell the story.
That's a great idea.
Great idea.
I know you guys are all doing a lot of work already, the organizers. I'm more than happy to at least attempt to do a first draft, and then if on next call or before the next call people just want to go in and edit or add, I'm more than happy to do that. But that's a great idea.
I love that. Yeah. So Jess, thanks for taking on that and being willing to take a first pass at that. That'd be great. Anybody else? Oops, am I muted? No.
I got to unmute myself. I think that if we develop a template for storytelling, that template could really be used for telling the story of each one of any of the goals. We just at the bottom always say, why is this person or why is this project an example of whatever?
Good. Tyler, any thoughts on how that dovetailed with your idea from last month?
Are we talking about unsung heroes?
Yeah, the unsung heroes. You had the idea of starting a list of the people whose stories need to be told, and to me, those two sounded pretty similar.
Yeah, we were talking in regards. I think you're bleeding over from SCN. I think we were talking,
maybe
you're bleeding over from SCN because we were talking in regards to diversity and inclusion. It was months. It was the months focusing in particular on which months
Oh, for the newsletter for SCN. Okay, sorry,
for
I've got
that
too many.
and a couple others. Yeah, but it actually kind of applies, sort of. I think really I like the idea of applying that unsung hero theory to Annika's project. In particular, it's one more flavor that we can put out, right? Because there'll be a ton of stuff that's there, but yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the overall goal for any of the efforts, no matter what the medium is, should be to highlight who we consider to be, the people in this industry that need the most help right now, as soon as possible. Those are the stories we keep telling, and I think everybody will the whole rises all boats, right? So, but yeah, I'm sorry, Jeff. I think we were bleeding over from the last one.
Okay,
I'll get off.
Annika has a question.
I'm finding that this unsung heroes shouldn't just be limited to goal number one. I mean, it's almost like goal number one and storytelling applied across all of the goals.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I think it's a really good title that we could use if we did a year-long campaign.
Yeah.
And every time we do an interview, we could ask the person, can you nominate someone who, we should talk to next? Or we should
Jeff, add that to the question. Who's the unsung hero in this community? Yeah, that's good.
Did we lose somebody?
That was me getting.
Oh, okay, that was you muting. Okay. Any other? So I think there's a lot of good actionable things that some of us can take away and do from this. Jess is going to create a template. So Jess, if you can do that, I can distribute. Let me know how I can help distribute that. Anybody else wants to raise a hand and help her with that? Please chime in. Any other thoughts on that, or I'll move on to the next item? Yes, Katie. Oh, thumbs up. You want to help? Okay. So Jess, if you and Katie could connect, maybe share your emails in the chat or something, and work on that. That formula,
Jess is
that template.
driving, so I will connect the two of you by email.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Cecilia. Okay, so really we moved through the agenda pretty well. With the next item on the agenda after that was to relate key takeaways, actions each attendee plans to take within the next 24 to 48 hours. So that was kind of a parting thing to do. And I think before we do that, I just want to see if there's any other items or ideas or thoughts anybody else has before we dive into that.
Sure. Jess here again. So listening to what Annika's idea was proposed earlier, the more I think about it, I do think having a solid kind of skeleton schedule for the next few months would be really, really helpful, because I'm the type of person, as long as I know, what X is, what the objective is, I can start thinking of ideas or ways to help. So Annika, I hear you that you're moving and you're busy, so I'm more than happy to hop on a separate call to see if I can't lead it, but I'm more than happy to contribute if you need help with a little bit of the admin stuff for making a skeleton schedule.
I would love that. Yes, thank you.
Awesome.
Jeff, can I borrow 2 minutes from this call just
Yes.
for a quick, just want to get a sense. So if we're thinking about introducing ecosystem builders that maybe many people haven't heard about. I do a lot of interviews for social ventures on stuff that I think is interesting, but just from the top of your head, don't overthink it. What is something you find really interesting to hear from people? If you had one question you got to ask, I don't know, Victor Wang 10 years ago, or the next Andy Stoll in the making who lives in, I don't know where. What's the kind of stuff that you find really interesting? What are your questions?
Well, so I have a kind of a standard set of template questions, and I know Tyler does too. One of the ones that I always want to ask is, for an ecosystem builder, is what is the program or activity in your community that you feel has had the biggest impact on entrepreneurs and growing ecosystem or growing entrepreneurship in your community, and hearing from them what has worked and had the best impact. That's kind of my go-to question.
Love it. Thank
Anybody
you.
else? Tyler?
I'm trying to remember. I had a really good question I asked in the Erie interview, and I forget to look it up again because I want to repeat it. But it's along the lines of.
I know where you could find that interview.
I'm not shilling here, people. I'm just thinking. Yeah, I always try to apply basically the 1 million cups questions, to my who are you, what are you doing, what's gone right, what's gone wrong, how can we help? Those are the 5 things that I try to answer with the story or with the interview, etc. If I can only get 5 questions in, those are the 5. If I can get in 20, it's 20 that ask those 5 questions, if that makes sense, but that's really it, is to apply that methodology at the end of it. So that's there you go.
Annika, I'd be happy to share. I've got a document with probably 20 or more questions in it, and I can share with you or anybody for that matter if they're interested.
That'd be great. Michelle, what would you say you're still trying to get a sense, which is awesome because there's so many people out there who are like, eco what now? What would you want to ask someone who's a really good ecosystem builder?
Well, it's a good point being fresh to this. I come in with a perspective that's fresh. And it's funny that you should ask this. One thing that I wanted to share, and I'll loop back, that's related and might have some connection to what you're planning. So right now we're taking a broad look at all of our communications platforms and trying to create synergy between them. And we're in the planning phase for thinking about a podcast, which I think some of these questions would be useful. Now, I know that there are other podcasts that exist, and we're looking to partner and find ways to look for connective tissue and work across organizations and all of that. It's very early planning phase, and I was planning to reach out to some of you individually anyway. But some of these questions could be helpful to us in how we're structuring that. And just coming out of SCN last week, it was really fascinating to learn more about what it actually looks like on the ground. And so I, would want to know more about how people are coming to the work. I'm always fascinated to understand more about people's paths and stories, because often, and I was this way as well, people sometimes don't consider themselves entrepreneurs or ecosystem builders. And so I'm kind of fascinated to understand from a personal perspective how they got to do that work.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. Katie, Jess, Cecilia, do you guys want to weigh in? No? Okay.
No, I was just gonna say, I kind of want to piggyback on what everyone's saying is, us that are early in this emerging field and we kind of know what we look for and can identify ecosystem builders. I think a lot of the responsibility does shoulder on us that know what it means to have ripple effect impact as an ecosystem builder. So just, again, identifying all of those humble worker bees that don't even realize they are ecosystem builders. I think that's, at this point in time, with the field being so new and so emerging, it's really where the priority needs to be, is that we can identify and nominate people so that more people get into the fold and understand that they're a part of the community.
Cool. All right. Thank you, guys.
I usually ask people what their biggest problem is. I think that we're all problem solvers, but ecosystem builders tend to work on other people's problems and issues, and part of that self-care and trying to be collaborative and find the win-win situation. I like to find out what their pressing need is, because they don't necessarily focus as much on that, and it's a community, it's a collaborative, it's relational. So
Yeah.
so knowing what they need also helps. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. All right. Thank you for the time. Jeff, back over to you.
Oh, okay. I was muted. Sorry. All right. So in the last 5 or 6 minutes, I thought I would take into action one of the things that somebody else brought up on our last call, which is popcorn around, relate to key takeaways or actions that each of us is going to take away and do within the next 24 to 48 hours. So Annika, I'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. I am going to build on the email that I sent you, Jeff, and write up a basic project plan with a bit of a timeline, so probably 1 to 2 pages, and share with you, Jeff, with you, Jess, Tyler, I'm not sure if Michelle, whoever raised their hand, I'll go back to the scribes. Thank you, Tyler.
Might as well put Avery on that list too.
And Jeff, I'll be in Chattanooga next week, and I'll have a chance to talk to Tiana. So
Okay.
I just need to find a home. I want to find a home for this, so I know that we can set aside some time and start working on it.
Okay.
That's my next 24 hours.
Okay. Popcorn.
And popcorn to Michelle.
I will continue to share Faye's article on a variety of platforms.
Perfect. And choose the next person.
Oh, I'm sorry, Cecilia.
okay, I shared with Jeff that I'm working on a blog post about how to show up in community, which is complex, and we'll see how that goes. It's not just focused on bad actors, but maybe about perceptions and how to do this and whatnot. So it's still percolating, but I'll be working on that. And then the other thing I'll be doing is uploading this video as soon as it's completed, and updating it on the dashboard. And Annika, I will see you in Chattanooga next week. And I will popcorn to Katie.
So I'll be sharing the article as well on my LinkedIn profile, but we have 12 municipalities in my county. And I remember when I was at ESHIP last year, 2018, none of my mayors were at the mayor's pre-conference. So I'm on a campaign to get these guys educated, and maybe in 2020 I can get them all there.
That's great. And you need to choose the next person to go. Unmute first. Who?
Oh, Tyler.
Or Tyler. Go, Tyler.
I'm going to finish typing all these things. I am going to catch up with Jeff first and foremost. Then I'm going to make sure I've got all the time I have available in October is yours, Annika. Michelle, I look forward to connecting with you. I know we're supposed to talk. I think Faye mentioned you. And I look forward to connecting with Katie on LinkedIn so I can like her article post. And Jess, I don't know when I'm getting to Alaska, but you're awesome. Keep doing it. Okay. Jess.
Was that a Jess with S's or F's?
Uh-oh.
Go, Jess.
Okay, sorry, I had a little bit of a freeze there. Well, everyone is welcome to come out to Alaska whenever they're ready. We have the Northern Lights coming in the winter here. So thank you for that, Nat. So let's see. I think my list is I am going to start the first draft of the Unsung Hero nominee one-pager. Hopefully it's decent. And once Cecilia connects me to Katie, Katie's going to take a look and see if she wants to add or edit or revise. And secondly, if Annika needs any help or support, she will reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to help with the skeleton schedule the next few months so we all kind of know what needs a big push for ideas and support. And I will try to, well, I will connect with everyone on LinkedIn that I'm not connected to, because that is my best platform. And same thing, I will like and share whatever folks post, and I think that's it. So who did not get to go yet? Jeff, did
I
you
think
get
I'm the last one, yeah. So I will send it out. So my main takeaway is to distill all these messy handwritten notes that I've got and try to keep track of all the different projects that are kind of bubbling up, and it's great to see all that. So I kind of want to have, I know, Cecilia, that this isn't supposed to be a project management call, but I kind of want to have somebody keeping track of all the different things going on. Somebody's got to do it, and for storytelling, I'm going to try to kind of capture that. So that is my takeaway.
Absolutely wonderful. The storytelling not being a real goal specifically.
Not goal 8.
Yeah, not goal 8. But storytelling and shared vision, so goal 3, is really very unique in that it's something that we have to do together. And it's more powerful together. In this particular case, storytelling is, because we're the ones that share going forward, and a story only gets better as it keeps getting told and resonates with more people. Shared vision, because it's hard to create a mission and a vision for a field of people when people aren't engaged together. So it's an interesting exercise, but it's hard to figure out what that is when you don't know where the edges are. So all good.
Okay, I'm sharing my email address, and I just put the wrong one in there. It's only got 2 F's in it. But before we head out, I just want to say, if you want to stay tuned on what is going to come up next call, I will use the Slack channels. But if you do not like Slack for some reason, then just email me, jeff@startupsac.org, and we'll find some other way to keep you up to date. But with that, I want to thank you all for your time, and we're going to head out of here only 2 minutes over time. Wait, we had is it possible to add me to Slack? That would be great. So Cecilia, is it possible to get Michelle?
Yes, of course.
Awesome. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great days.
Thanks.